Hey, what's up guys? Sloth King here. Today I'm going to be working on my 4th gen Toyota 4Runner. It is the V6 and we are going to be replacing the idler pulleys and the tensioner as well. So let's go over what we're going to need and let's jump right into this. Alrighty, so we're just going to need some common hand tools. So I recommend getting some wrenches. We're mostly going to be using just a 14, maybe a couple 12s today. I recommend getting a socket set, an extension, and get yourself a 3/8 drive socket set as well, because we're going to be working in some tight places. You will need a breaker bar. We are going to be needing a torque wrench to torque down the pulleys. Now there's a few bolts that we will not be able to torque down just because it's a tight spot, so that kind of sucks. I recommend grabbing a flashlight. And then as far as the pulleys go and the tensioner, this is what I'm using today. So for the tensioner, I'm using a Litns tensioner. You can get this at any of the bigger auto parts stores or somewhere online. Litns, I actually found out that they are the OE supplier for our tensioner and all of the pulleys. But the pulleys, I found out that they're like 80 bucks a piece, so that's a lot of money. And actually the OE pulleys are cheaper than getting the Litns ones. But this was actually just, it was 80 bucks at the time of filming right now in 2024. So this was on par with how much a Gates tensioner was. Anyway, so as far as the pulleys go, we're going to be using two different types. One of them, we're going to be using the same one. These two that are the same, this is going to be for the idler pulley up by the alternator, and then the same one will be over by the power steering pump. And then this one right here, it's a different size. This one will be on the bottom of the engine, that is right between the AC compressor and the crank. This is the only one that's going to be different, and that will get torqued down a little bit tighter than the other ones. And then I recommend grabbing a 5mm Allen wrench, so that way we can lock our tensioner in place. So yeah, that's all we're going to need today. Now to get the tensioner off, that is the most tedious part of this whole job, because we have to go ahead and remove the alternator. We got to remove the AC compressor. Now we don't need to disconnect any of the lines, but we just need to unbolt the bolts and then push it out of the way. So that is the most tedious part of this whole entire job. And like always, I will link everything that I used in this video in the description below, so that way you can grab everything all in one spot. Now that we have all this covered, let's go ahead and start tackling this. All right guys, so the first thing that we're going to do, we need to go ahead and disconnect and remove our battery, so that way we can take our alternator out a lot easier. If you still have this bracket in place, these are just a couple of 10mm nuts on a stud. So go ahead and remove this. I usually just like to put the hardware right back on here. Sorry, I'm doing this one-handed. It's a little shaky. We can grab that bar afterwards. Just set this aside. I got a little bit of corrosion on there. I can go ahead and clean that off later. Oh my, that's a lot. All right, with the battery disconnected, let's go ahead and pop this thing out. All right, so now that we got the battery out, before we move any further, let's go ahead and remove the tension on the tensioner, so that way we can start taking off the stuff for the alternator. If you guys saw the last video, replacing the belt, you will know that the tensioner is right here. So it is going to be a 14mm. You should be able to see this a little bit easier. So we're just going to rotate it in a counterclockwise fashion. And now the belt is going to be loose. So let's go ahead and pop this off right there. And let's go ahead and use our Allen key to lock the tensioner in place, which, if you look at it, I'll show you right afterwards, there's a little hole on this part of the tensioner that you can just slide the Allen key in if you don't drop it like I just did. so I will go ahead and slide it in this slot, and then I'll show you where it's at in just a second. If you look right there, that's the hole on the tensioner where you can just pop your Allen key in there, and then it'll keep the pulley right in that spot. So now we can just slip the belt off after we take off our breaker bar. All right, so now that we have the belt nice and loose, we can just pop off the belt from the alternator, and then just the idler pulley that's right off to the left right here. We don't need to take it all the way off, honestly. We can just slide it out of the way just enough so that way we can start taking out this alternator. So one thing that I forgot to mention earlier, if you have a trim removal tool, this will make it a lot easier. There's this wire that is on this bracket of the alternator, and we just need to pop this off. There's like a little clip in here. You just need to get that in there, and then it should just pop right out. Sometimes these break. There's like two little tabs that come out that look like this, and they need to get squeezed down like that so it can pop through. There we go. All right, that is nice and free now. And if you didn't have a trim removal tool, there is a 10mm plate that actually we might have to remove. Oh, yep, that looks to be the case. So there's a 10mm bolt right here that we're gonna have to remove. All right, now that's free. Next, there is a little bracket right here with the 10mm bolt as well. Remove that. Now this will be able to move out of the way a little bit more. If you look over here, there is a plate with a 10mm bolt as well. Remove that so that way we can access our alternator connections. All right, that's removed. Put that in a safe spot. Now let's take a little bit closer look at that alternator. All right, so next there is a plug right here, and then there is a connector right here that is held on by a 10mm bolt. So the first connection we are going to remove is this. There's just a little tab on the side of it. You squeeze it and then you'll just be able to pull it right out. See this tab right here? And then next we can pop this little cover off. Just grab one of the sides. And it should pop right up. If it hasn't been removed, then you can try to wiggle it a little bit, maybe stick a little flathead right underneath the side of the cover, and then it should come right off. This thing literally just like clips right on it. Oh, okay, I got it. Finally. Wow, that was just like that was just like wedged on there. All right, so this little cover just comes right off. There's nothing holding it on the underside to the wire, so we can just remove that, keep that out of the way. And then now I have a few extensions, so we can go ahead and just pop on our 10mm right there, and then just take this off. All right, and be careful with this nut, don't lose it. So let's go ahead and take this, put that aside, and then we are just going to spin our nut on just a couple threads just to keep that there so we don't lose it. And while we're here, I forgot to mention that there is, it's really hard to see it on camera, but if you follow this wire down, let me see if I can move these vent lines out of the way. All right, so those are out of the way. If you look right down here, there's a 10mm bolt that holds the rest of this wiring bracket on. So we need to remove that so we can remove the wiring and get that out of the way. It's a 10mm bolt down here, and it looks like we can only fit a wrench down there. So let's go ahead and fit a wrench down here. I have a ratcheting wrench on me. I'm gonna see if that can fit down here. All right, there we go. It's gonna be a minute for me to take that off, but oh no, it's loose enough. I can do it by hand now. All right, that is the 10mm bolt. So now this wiring is completely free to move out of the way. That'll make it a lot easier to remove the alternator. So now we can start taking off the alternator bolts and one of the pulleys. All right, so since this is such a tight spot, I'm gonna need to move the camera out of the way to do this, but I'm going to show you first. So this idler pulley right here, we need to remove this so that way we can get our alternator out a lot easier. So this is a 14mm bolt. We're gonna put our breaker bar on it, take that off, and then there is a 14mm here, and then one right here, right down here. You'll see it. These are the two bolts that hold the alternator in. Once you remove those, the alternator can just wiggle out, and then we can fish it on up through this spot. But to take it out easily, we need to take this idler off. So I'm gonna try to move the camera back a little bit, try to get a good shot for you guys, but it's gonna be really difficult. Our radiator hose right here is a little bit in the way, but we might be able to finagle it with an extension. Hopefully this extension isn't too long. And let's try to do this. And the extension is just a little bit too long for this. But I think I can make do with just my my swivel socket on it. It'll give it just enough reach. There we go. Now let's loosen that. Oh, that wasn't too bad. Now I can go ahead and put my ratchet on it and then take it off the rest of the way. And then we should be able to take it off by hand now. All right. Sweet, got it out. And inside of here, you'll see this little washer. Just keep in mind where it goes. The new one's gonna have it, but it's always good to make sure we have the orientation there. Yeah, you can't really hear it that well, but you can see that it's just like really slow to move. All right, keep that bolt together, put it aside, and now we can just get our two alternator bolts right here and right here. So I'm gonna reach for the hardest one first down here. Try to get this off. I do have my impact sockets on me, so they're a little bit deeper. So let's just see if that fits without being annoying. All right. Oh my God, that's untight. All right, and let's go ahead and put our breaker bar down in here. Oh, that's on pretty tight. Jeez. All right, let's see if this works. Oh. Oh, it's just rounding out. My goodness, I finally just got it loose. I was trying not to bore you guys, but I had to use my 3/8 ratchet with the cheater bar, which I don't recommend. It just puts too much strain on everything. And I finally just got it to the point where I can remove it. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this out the rest of the way. And there we go. And actually this is stuck on the end. I'll go ahead and take that off here in a minute. All right, with that out, now we can go ahead and take out this top alternator bolt. Hopefully this one's not wedged in there either. Oh no, that one's actually a lot easier. Good. All right, now that's loose enough, we can take out this top bolt. And then now we should be at the point where we can just wiggle this alternator out. Yep. So let's carefully get this off the mounting point down at the bottom. We're just gonna keep wiggling it until it pops out. All right, there we go. Power cord is in the way. It's positive one. I see a ground wire in the way that I can actually remove. All right, there we go. Geez, that was annoying. If you look right down here, right there, there's a little ground wire. It's just a 12mm bolt that I unbolted, and then it allowed me to move this wiring just up and out of the way enough to slide it out. All right, so now we can go ahead and remove our 4 mounting bolts on our compressor. So before we go underneath it to remove the bottom ones, let's go ahead and remove the 2 top ones. They are 2 12mm bolts. All right, let's go ahead and get this first one off. All right, let's make sure I can get this other one. Hey, there we go. Now I should be able to take out the rest of the way with just my ratchet. All right, there's one bolt. Go ahead and take out this other bolt, and then we can go ahead and move to the bottom bolts underneath the car. All right, let's go into the car. Alrighty, now that we are underneath the car, we can go ahead and start removing the other 2 bolts. But before we do that, there's this AC line right here that runs horizontal in front of the engine. And if we remove this one bracket that holds the line in place, we'll be able to move the line around, and it'll be a lot easier to remove the compressor or just get the compressor out of the way. And there is a bracket right here. It's a 10mm bolt. If we remove that, that will give us a lot more room, so that way we can, or actually a lot more play in the compressor. So when we unbolt the compressor, we can move it out of the way easily without having this line just holding us up. So I'm just gonna remove this bolt, and then you'll see that the line will move. All right, I just got that bolt out, and you see that there's a lot of wiggle room in this line now. So once we get that compressor free, it will be so much easier to get the compressor out of the way so we can get the tensioner out. To remove these 2 bottom compressor bolts, if you look right where your tie rod is, you put a light in here. You can see that bolt right there. That is the one on the right side. And in between these 2 hoses, right there, that is the other bolt. Now this one right here, we can get away with putting a wrench in there, and then like doubling up on the wrench, like putting another wrench on here and twisting it down to get enough leverage to break it. But that back one, I was trying to fit an extension through there, or trying to put my breaker bar from up above and putting it down below to try to grab it, but it is so tight to grab that I'm trying to figure out something else to do with that. So for the meantime, I'm going to loosen this left one, and I'll show you that here in a second. All right, so I have the wrench on, and then I have a 14mm on the box end, and I just looped it around one of these, one of the open box part of the teeth right here, the shorter one, and I just have it so it's resting right on the lip here, and it'll give me enough leverage to just pull it down and loosen it. So since it's in a tight spot, you can't get it all the way around. There we go. And then now, since it moved a little bit, I can fully rest it underneath there, and then get the bolt loose the rest of the way. You can rotate the wrench down a little bit more, and then it'll just give you that extra leverage. See what I did there? So on the wrench, on the 12mm, you have your longer open end side. On the shorter end, you're gonna put your 14mm on, swing it around, and lock it in place. And it makes your wrench longer, giving you more leverage. And then you just pull down on it, and it loosens up your bolt. Now this one's going to be a very long, tedious process of doing this back and forth. So I'm not gonna bore you with completely loosening it, but I got that bolt loose now. It'll be a lot easier to take off. So now we just have to worry about getting the back bolt off. All right guys, so I finally got to the point where I just broke the bolt loose. Now, if you can see, I have my 3/8 wrench right in here. Initially, when I first did that, I thought I didn't have enough like throw so I can like pull it, because I have too much play in my ratchet. I actually just pushed on it so it clicks one more tooth back, and then now I can grab it, and you really have to pull on it. It's like one click. You can actually get it from right here. It'll literally just be one click at a time with your ratchet, but you can get the bolt completely loose. Now I need to get some better ratchets, so that way I can have a couple more teeth on it, so that way I don't have such a large area of margin to be like, oh, it'll click if I push it like 7 degrees back this way. But anyway, I digress. So I'm gonna sit here for a little bit and just loosen this bolt up. And once we loosen it up, we will be able to move the compressor out of the way and we can get to our bolts on our tensioner and then we can replace it. So I'll be back, guys. All right, so now that we have the compressor removed, this is going to be pretty tricky, but there are 4 14mm bolts here. So there's gonna be 2 on the bottom right here, 1 right here, and then 1 right here. And we have to get the compressor up high enough so that way we can clear the bottom bolts, so that way we can fit a ratchet or pry bar down there. Now it's going to be a little bit difficult, but it can definitely be done. It's going to be very hard for me to film, so I'm going to try my best to capture this on camera, but if I can't, I'll just tell you how I did it. All right, so just to get this part captured, I pushed the compressor up. See how it's in this position? That allowed me to fit my wrench right in there on that first bolt. Now I'm loosening that one up, and then you can see, well, not really, it's really hard to see. You can see the second bolt that I pointed out that was on the bottom right. You might be able to access it from here, but if you just drop the compressor down back to where it originally was, you can just fit a wrench in there and then take that off. So I'm gonna take this bolt out and then we'll move on to the other ones. All right, so I just put my 3/8 wrench down here, and now I should be able to get it free. Oh yeah. There we go. All right, so now that one is free. I'm gonna go ahead and take that bolt out. All right, there's that bolt. And then now we got this bolt and then this bolt. So this bolt actually shouldn't be too bad. I should be able to put a extension and a wobble socket on it. All right, let's see if throwing this swivel on it will work. My swivel is so worn out. It's so hard to get this thing on here. All right, here we go. Oh yeah. There we go. All right, got that bolt out. This one should be a walk in the park. All right. Oh yeah. And there's that last one. Woo! Now, keep in mind that this bolt is longer, so don't get it mixed up with the alternator bolt. And now we should be able to just pull it out. All right, so I've been fighting, trying to take this thing off, and there was a 5th bolt that I did not see. So if you follow my finger right down here, it is literally right above this black sensor right here. Take that off, and then this whole thing will be able to come out. All right, it is right here. All right, there we go. And now this whole thing will be able to just come right out. Just gotta get the belt out of the way and then just pull it straight up. There we go. Now if we take a look here. Oh, that sounds awful. Yeah, it's a lot better to, I mean, you could replace this this pulley right here. It is right hand threaded. So to loosen it, you turn it to the right, and then to tighten it, you turn it to the left. So if you guys just need to replace that one, go ahead and do that. But I'm not too sure of the part number on this, but yeah. So now we can go ahead and install our new part. All right, here's our new part. Look at how nice and shiny this thing is. So install is literally just the reverse of the removal. Make sure you throw all of the bolts in. Remember, this top bolt is the longest one out of all 5 of these, not just 4, 5. All these 4 right here, these 4 are the same size. This one's the longest one. Don't get it mixed up with the alternator. I'm gonna go ahead and install it off camera, and then we can go ahead and replace the other pulleys. And then we will be able to throw our belt back on. And usually I'm really big about torquing stuff down, but since this area is so tight, there's no way to torque them all down. So get them all tight and then turn them about a quarter turn, and it should be good. Just make sure that they're tight and not like overly tight. But yeah, I think these are just around 30 foot-pounds to torque down, so keep that in mind. All right, I'll be back, guys. Alrighty, so once you have your AC compressor and your alternator back in, and you have all of your wires hooked back up, now we can go ahead and install our top idler pulley for the alternator. Alright, so once you open the box, you're going to see the pulley, and then you're going to see this little sleeve right here. This is just so that way the bolt can tighten down on here. We're going to slide our bolt through there, and then we're just going to wiggle it past down here. I know it's kind of hard for you guys to see, but it'll go back to its home, and then we're going to torque it down to 29 foot-pounds. Now my arm is probably going to block the view, but if you took it off, you already know where it goes. All right, that is snug. Now let's torque it. There we go, all done. Now we can go ahead and get the other pulleys. All right, since we have our torque wrench torqued to 29 foot-pounds, let's go ahead and take off the power steering idler pulley, which is this one right here. This will be the same pulley as the alternator one. The only one that's different, like I mentioned before, was the AC compressor one. All right, that is off. Now let's go ahead and pop the new one on. All right, installing the new one. There we go, all done. Now let's go ahead and get that AC compressor pulley. All right, here's the last one right here. Ooh, that's on tight. Oh, wow. Alrighty, and this one actually comes with a new bolt. So we're gonna go ahead and use that. Let's snug it up. And then this one gets torqued down to 40 foot-pounds. There we go. It is all done. Whew. Last thing we need to do is throw the belt on and then reinstall our battery, and we are done. All right, so I did explain how to do this before in the video on whenever I replace this belt, but a quick overview. We're gonna go around the water pump, then we're gonna go underneath the alternator idler pulley, go up and around the alternator, and then we're going to come down here on the outside of the AC compressor, wrap underneath this idler pulley, bring this up and around, let the bottom side contact the crank pulley right here. We're going to push the excess slack out towards the power steering. All right, once you got this coming up, next thing that's going to happen is we're going to bring this part of the belt up and around the crankshaft right here. So it's going to bend a little bit underneath. All right. Wrap it around. Here is the tensioner. going to go up and around the tensioner. Bring out some more of the slack. And then we're going to loop it around the tensioner and let the ribbed part of the belt ride on your water pump pulley or your fan pulley, whatever you want to call it. So it would technically just be the water pump though. Wrap that around just like that. And then finally, this part of this belt, like the top part that I told you to make contact on the water pump, the flat side here, it's going to go around your power steering idler pulley right here. And then we're just going to take out a little bit of the slack from the rest of the belt, just like that. And we're going to wrap it around the power steering pulley right here. In order to get a little bit more of the slack, we want to make sure that all of the belt is touching every single part of the ribs on the pulleys. We want it completely flat. In this last part, we're going to have to release some of the tension on the tensioner pulley, so that way we can pull the rest of the belt over our power steering pump. So release the tension, and then with your other hand, wrap it around the power steering pulley. And make sure it is all secured. I still have my lock pin. I reinstalled my lock pin on the tensioner. Now I'm just going to double check all the belts, you know, the belt on all of the pulleys I meant. And we look pretty dang good. Everything looks really lined up. Now we can release some of the tension and then take out our pin right here. And boom, we're all done. Hopefully that made sense for you guys. If not, I explained it just as well or a little bit better in the belt install and change video. And yeah, now all you need to do is go ahead and reinstall your battery and you are done. All right, guys, let's go ahead and start her up and see how she runs. Nice and smooth. Yeah. All right, guys, and we are all done. That was such a grueling process. You can probably see this tarp behind me. It started raining when I was halfway through this, and I just had to get something up. But yeah, I've been at this for about 7 hours, and this is only supposed to be like an hour and a half, 2 hour job, maybe 3 at the most. But this took so long. I had such a hard time trying to get to the bolts to the tensioner bracket, and it was just one thing after another. The alternator bolt itself, that was a pain to get off. But yeah, it was mostly just trying to get that compressor out of the way. The compressor bolts weren't easy to get to, and it was a lot harder than I was anticipating, because I knew it was like a tight space, but I didn't realize how bad it was. But we got it all done, and all the pulleys are easy to do. You can get that done within like 30 minutes. And as far as like getting the tensioner replaced, that is a feat in itself. So make sure you have the whole day planned out to do this, just in case. Hopefully this video helped you guys out, and if it did, awesome. I'm super glad. I wish you guys luck if you try to tackle this on your own. Anyways, like always, I'll catch you guys on the next ride.